Hey everybody, and welcome to the Ace Football Academy. This is our Friday footy talk as usual. Coach Hamilton alongside Coach Dunham as always. Coach, we're kind of getting into that swing of fall soccer, right? We're kind of moving past the preseason into the fall season, the fall regular season. So I think this past week, all of our club teams really got together for the first time, and I know the high school season kicked off for a lot of our teams this week or next week. So we thought it'd be a great time to design a. We're saying 1 hour, but let's be honest. There's very few teams that only train for an hour. So I'm going to spin this on you, designing a 90-minute training session, right? Because that's about what we do.
Really just designing a training session and what goes into, I guess, the pillars of a training session.
And so I love that you mentioned that because, we talk about the structure. Like, how are you going to, what is your sessions, what are your sessions going to look like? And I think the structure is important because I think you want a structure, and again, we'll get into this. I think you want a structure that is similar throughout your entire season, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll get into why I feel that way. The flow, just what is it going to look like? How is it going to flow? For me, the intensity is something that the C license course that I recently finished really harped on and focused on. So for me, that has become a big learning curve for me. And then, of course, just the focus. And focus is also something that I want to talk about that I'm excited for. But, Coach, we both kind of off camera felt like this might be a long episode. So we may break it up into 2 episodes where tonight we talk about the structure and the flow. But, I don't know. We'll see. You and I will just start talking and we'll go from there. But, Coach, let's start with the structure of your training.
Well, and just like you said, your structure should be similar or the same every practice. And to get into detail what we're talking about here, your training sessions should be in blocks, minutes per block. Yeah. So your players show up. It could be, hey, when you show up to practice and we're waiting for everybody else and I'm setting things up, you are to be juggling or passing with a partner. You could call it your pre-practice warm-up session. Coach, you have a question?
Yeah, not a question, but especially as you get into the older age groups, what they should not be doing in warm-ups is just ripping shots on goal. If that's what you're allowing as a coach, when your kids show up, you allow them to go to the PK or the top of the 18 and just start ripping shots, you're going to get someone hurt.
Well, the other part of that, and I like that you brought that up, because I was going to get into that about not getting into just ripping shots and everybody shooting because someone's going to get hurt. But this is about your discipline within your team. If you've got good captains or some good leaders on your team, they should be showing up and saying, hey, Charlie, Dunham, you guys team up and go pass over there. Or, hey, you three, let's get in a circle and start juggling around real quick, do some little two-touch. Just shooting is chaos because nothing's really happening. They're not really getting a warm-up. They're not really getting good touches on it. But when you get players showing up and they're working on their juggles, they're working on the passes, they're doing a little two-touch juggling drill, or they're doing volleys back and forth. Now we're working on our discipline, saying, hey, I'm focused when I'm showing up for practice.
So I love that you bring this up. I've learned 2 really important things from coaches that I'm currently working with or alongside of. Shout out Matt Jackson and Dean Jordan. So Matt Jackson and I are taking over a couple club teams together, and we're excited about it. It's going to be great. But you mentioned the discipline, and you mentioned, we're talking about structure. He has gotten these girls to understand that, okay, I'm going to show up to training. I'm going to find the line of bags because we're going to be structured and all of our bags are going to be in a good straight line. And if I'm the first one there, I'll start the line, right? I'll set my bag down and that starts the line. And then I'm going to run 2 with just lazy striker jogs is the term I use, from end to end. And then I'm going to get a ball and I'm going to start juggling. And then as my teammates start to show up, I have some options. Yes, you and I can pass. Yes, you and I can do toe taps and fundamentals and foundations and all that kind of stuff, right? Or you and I can go one-on-one, right? You and I can activate each other by going one-on-one. So I love what Matt has taught me about, especially just that mental structure of the warm-up.
Yeah, and a lot of that, it's also, the discipline's a big part of it, but it's about being responsible, growing in maturity as a player that's getting older as you go.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was coaching high school that multiple players who were playing on high-level teams would discuss some of the things that their coach was making them do or bring to practice. And when they're telling me, I'm thinking, well, that's wild.
Yeah.
But it's teaching them to be grown up.
Yeah.
One coach said, every practice, you need to have 3 orange cones, 2 plastic garbage bags, an extra pair of socks, and maybe one other thing. And I'm thinking, that's brilliant. Because now they can't say, well, my mommy didn't put it in my bag.
Mm-hmm.
No. You are X age, and it's time for you to be responsible for yourself and your stuff coming to practice. So we're teaching these kids about being prepared, about being responsible, working on their discipline, understanding that mom and dad are getting less part of being responsible of you coming to practice and more about you being responsible for you and your teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Coach, let's move in. So there's our warm-up, right? And so we're getting that physical and mental activation. We're locking in. We're getting ourselves prepared for our training session. Let's get into the...
Well, actually...
please, go ahead.
We kind of been referencing, the not shooting and doing... That's kind of my pre-practice, you say activation.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really your structured warm-up. So
okay.
Now everyone showed up. Practice starts at 5:30.
Okay. Yep.
Players are showing up at 5:20, 5:25, and hey, start juggling when everybody gets here. It is now 5:30, and now the coach is having a structured warm-up where we're doing some kind of dynamic type of physical activity, or we're doing some, quick jumping jacks, sprints, some kind of activation to get the legs ready, getting the muscles going, getting your brain activated. It's a structured warm-up where it's saying, all right, guys, it is soccer time.
So I'm interested to get your take on this because my take on this, training has started, right? So we're in that, it is official. We are going. Everybody should be here. Everybody should be laced up and, here we go. I want to get your take because my take has changed over the past couple of years. And one of the things, both club and school, I'm coaching both right now. It takes a little bit of time, but I've gotten to the point to where in that warm-up, in that 10-minute, 15-minute warm-up, I don't want to have to be involved. I want my captains or my leaders or whoever to take control, right? It's their team in that moment. And hey, they know what they're supposed to do. They know they're supposed to do a dynamic stretch. They know they're supposed to get into their footwork. And I'm going to carry this over into what we're going to talk about next. But, my pre-match and my pre-match and then the first several minutes of my training aren't all that different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, I'll just go to my school team right now because that's who's really in play. We start training at 10 a.m. I don't really, I say hi and all that kind of stuff, but I don't address the team as a whole about soccer until about 10:45. So, for me, what we're going to talk about in the next 2 steps, so I just want to get your take on that. Is this something that, you feel like you need to control, and I think we've talked about this in former or prior podcast about when you need to step in as the coach and things like that. But in a session, I like my captains to get it going.
I love what you're doing. And when I was doing high school with the girls, yes, my captains knew, hey, you should be warmed up, laced up, ready to go at 5:30, whatever time practice was starting back then. And they would walk down the field, everybody be laced up, they start running their dynamics, doing little passing lines, whatever it may be. 5:30, coach takes over. Here's the flip side of this. This is where boys and girls very much differ in maturity. Previously I was coaching the 2013 boys, and I had them for, almost 4 years. When I would do warm-ups, I would say, hey, Sam, Mike, you guys run warm-ups real quick and get it going. And the team wouldn't let them do it. Everybody was shouting out, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. And I'd be like, Sam and Mike are running the warm-ups. Everybody needs to just listen to them. But they couldn't do it. The level of maturity just wasn't there for them to let their captain or let a teammate run a simple warm-up. And I think that's the frustration that I have in dealing with boys versus girls, because you understand, I've got 3 girls, they're my captains, and they know what to do. We've had a talk. They're going to take care of business. And the girls aren't going to give many problems. They may chit-chat a little bit on the side while they're doing it, which is fine. The boys, I don't know if it's this testosterone thing, they're going through puberty, and everybody feels like they've got to be the alpha male, or they got to give their point of view or something like that. And I think that's one of the things that frustrated me, is I couldn't get them to just be quiet, let the kids I notified to run the warm-up, let them do it.
Yeah.
Because they weren't just having little chit-chats. They were trying to say, we need to do this now. We need to do that now. And I'm like, just let them do it.
So, all right, so let's talk about your warm-up in general. Like, I mentioned that my pre-match and my, pre-training, I guess, warm-up is most of the time like the exact same. Not the exact same, but really similar. So, like, for your boys, what are the build up to when you take over? Are those things the same?
All the same.
Okay, so yeah.
I'm just like you. My warm-ups, it's just really getting your muscles in your brains and getting everything ready to go for an actual training session or a game. It's your dynamic little warm-up. It's your passing lines, or whatever it may be.
Well, and for me with that, it's also like you practice like you play, right? You train like you play. So we're going to open our training the same way that we're going to open a match day, right? Because we all have to be ready to go. Coach, so let's get into, so we've talked about our warm-up. You and I are kind of the same. We have that same type of physical and mental warm-up. We both try to let our players run that. Doesn't always work out. But then we get into, I love this part, and there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with this, including U.S. soccer. But you get into that technical side of things, just the ball mastery where, you may have 24 kids on your team, but for the next 15 or 20 minutes, they're all going to have a ball at their feet. Or maybe they'll be working with a partner, but in the next 15 minutes, they're all going to be getting 1,000, 1,500 touches in that 15 minutes.
Here's what I see. So number 2 is our technical drill, and number 3 is our tactical drill. I kind of look at this as 2 and 2A, or 2A and 2B, where I'm usually not doing technical and then getting into tactical and then getting into a small-sided. Usually I have a practice where if I'm doing technical, I'm doing technical for a pretty long period of time. Mm-hmm. And then we might end with some kind of small-sided game or full field scrimmage. Where the other side of the tactical, where I'm doing the tactical of a theme of the day.
Right.
And then I'm moving into a small-sided game and then to a full field scrimmage if we can do that. So I look at those as 2 separate practices, where my practice Tuesday, we're doing technical for about 45 minutes or longer. And then on Thursday, we're working into tactical. I'm working on my first touch. I'm working on 50-50 balls. I'm working on, combination passing, whatever it may be. So I look at those as more of a 2A, 2B for me.
I guess I'm a little different here. My warm up and my technical, again, we're calling this, I know we're calling it a 60-minute training, but I'm using 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That first 30 minutes for me is a 10, 12, 15-minute warm up and then a 15-minute technical. And my technical drill is not going to change that entire week, right? So maybe we're running I call them technical, first touch circles, right? When we're just doing a bunch of first touch circles. Maybe we're doing a, man on turn, whatever we're doing. I'm doing it Tuesday and Thursday in my trainings, and I'm not going to change that. Some of the reason I do that is because once I introduce it on Tuesday, I shouldn't have to the only thing I should have to do on Thursday is just keep the time, right? My captains, my leaders should be able to get everybody into that group and say, hey, we know what we're doing. We did it Tuesday. Let's get into it, right? So for me, these two steps are very drastically different to what we're going to get into 3, 4, and 5. So for me, it is warm up and technical in that first 30 minutes. And that's going to look, one of the things we don't even have on here, especially preseason wise, is like conditioning, right? Mm-hmm. So like those three things for me with the warm up, the conditioning, the technical, it looks the same, especially in the preseason for me. It looks the same every single time we meet all week long. And then I'll change it the next week. But I think that lends itself to me being able to step away as coach and let my leaders take over and go, hey, we know what we're doing. We did it 2 days ago. We did it yesterday. We did it, whatever it is. So I do tend to keep my warm up and my technical drills the same for whether it's 2 or 3 trainings that week, but I do tend to keep those the same.
Yeah, so 2 more points I want to bring on to the whole technical ability here. Mm. A lot of this is very dependent on age.
Yeah, 1,000%.
When you're, let's say, U12 and down, you absolutely should be starting practice where everyone has a ball at their foot.
Yep.
And you're working on pullbacks and ball rolls and, and Vs and cut, whatever, inside, outside, toe, heel, sole of the foot. When you're 6 and 7 and 8 years old, it's so imperative that they understand to be comfortable with the ball at their feet.
Yeah. Well, and I love you brought that up because even with the middle school team I'm coaching right now, one of the first, now it'll change once school starts and our trainings are shortened, but right now I get 2 hours of training. Mm-hmm. And Coach, I'm not kidding you, the first 45 minutes, every single one of my girl has a ball at her foot. And they're doing all those things you just talked about. Toe taps, bells, pullbacks, rolls, inside, outside. They're doing all those things for 45 minutes. And I learned that from a friend of the podcast, Trip Rogers, right? He came on and he talked to us and he said, yeah, at the time, he was at Morehead State, and he was like, yeah, at Morehead State, we have a 2-hour practice, we have a 3-hour practice at Morehead State, and the first 90 minutes of it is all technical work. It's all those things that we all know they're boring. We all know everybody hates them, but they are so fundamental to the game and to our trainings that they just cannot be ignored, even though they get ignored a lot.
Yeah, and so we all believe technical is important.
Yeah.
I have, over the last couple years, have kind of, I don't say I've gone away from technical, but I've done less technical. I've kind of swayed more to a tactical with the understanding that everything needs to be with some kind of pressure. I love doing a rondo, a 4v1, a 5v2, a 6v3, or some kind of mixture of a rondo where I'm working on my passing, my first touch, I'm working on my communication, I'm working on my body positioning. All that technical work is being developed, but it's being developed with pressure, which is a game-like situation. And I've kind of experimented with that, and I feel like once you get to the U12 and up, that's when it's really going to start making an effect. So when you're U6 and U10 and to those areas, I've done a lot of technical work, they should be comfortable with the ball at their feet.
Yeah.
Now we're going to add pressure to that.
Agreed.
And now I'm going to focus on, hey, how composed are you under pressure? Are you just kicking the ball when it comes to you somewhere? Or are you thinking 10 spots ahead, kind of like a chess game where, hey, the defender's on this side, the space is on this side, so I get my body ready, so I'm ready to go. So if I can see that the wheels turning in your head, I feel like that's going to be more beneficial with you.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and that is what U.S. soccer is pushing, right? They want the technical aspect of the game to come through those small-sided games and things like that. But I don't know, I think there's something to be said for a ball at your foot and doing the work at every level, right? So, Coach, let's dive into, again, we knew we were going to go long here, so let's dive into, I mean, for our list is 3 and 4 with the tactical applied drill versus and the small-sided game. For me, this is where I get into that play, train, play mode, right? So now for me, I am in that final 60 minutes of my training, and I'm going to run a 15-minute play, a 20-minute train, and a 15-minute play, right? And I'm going to use the small-sided games in those plays, but my train may be a passing combination, or it may be a set piece, whatever it is, right? But for me, this is where I get into that play, train, play.
Yeah, and there's definitely benefits then. I know you've learned that from your C license course. We're talking about the small-sided games here, right? And for anyone listening, we're talking about your 3 versus 3, your 4 versus 4, maybe even a 5 versus 5 where you've got, a shooting theme on that day. When you do your small-sided games, the point of that is to get touches on the ball where everybody's got to be engaged the entire time. Because when you do full field, there's going to be a lot of moments for certain players where they can kind of walk around and lounge and kind of be a little more relaxed. When we're doing 3v3, if that one player is just sitting in the back playing defender the whole time, your team's not doing anything.
Well, you want to provide a first small-sided game or a first play that creates the problem you're gonna try and solve in the train.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe you watched film, maybe you just took notes or whatever it is in your last match, and you're like, man, we really had trouble building out of the back, or whatever it is, right? And so, all right, my first play is gonna start at the goal, right? Or as a goal kick. And that's where we're going to start. And we're going to play 3v3, or we're going to play 3v2, and we're going to build out of the back, right? And everything's going to start from the back. So you want to create that problem in your first play. And for me, again, this is just me, I don't do a lot of coaching in my first play. I use a lot of buzzwords that I'm going to hit on in that session, right? During that first play, I'm going to use a lot of buzzwords that I'm going to use during the training portion of the session, right? Engage, or I don't know, diagonal, or find the run, or space, or whatever it is, right? I'm going to use a lot of those words, And then when I bring everybody back together at the end of that first play, again, and also for me, and you may be different, but for me, in the first play, I don't ever stop it. Right? I don't ever step in and stop it. I'm just using my voice throughout the thing. And I may say, hey, Dunham, come here and talk to me for a second. And it'll be like, hey, Gray, you're playing a man down for a bit, right? Because I'm talking to you off to the side, right? So I'll use some of those buzzwords with you, and then you step back on, and we're back in, right? So, but for me in that first play, I just use the words, and then I bring everybody back together, and I'm like, all right, what word did you hear me say over and over and over again? Engage or find space or whatever. And then that leads us into our train portion of the things, which is that applied drill that you talked about.
And the other thing when we're doing response-sided games is we have some kind of a constraint to help solve the problems that you're talking about.
Yes.
Everybody's two-touch only. I'm working on you've got to pass the ball, you got to be thinking ahead, or you have to give a give and go before you can score a goal, or you got to play the way you're facing, or you got to receive with your back foot. These constraints are to get them thinking while they're playing, because now they're thinking about two different things. Okay, what did coach say we had to do every time we're playing? And I've got to think about what's going on in the game situation to make sure I'm engaged. So those little things that help players. Soccer is a thinking game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like chess. You've got to see it way before it happens. You're going to be 2 and 3 steps ahead. And these little small-sided games and those constraints are helping develop those different skills as we're playing along.
Yeah, and again, then I would absolutely in your training session with as full-sided as you can go. You know, if you have 18 players, you go 99. If you have 14 players, you go 77. You know, if you have to step on as a coach and just be the goalkeeper to figure it out, then you should. Because they do, again, as you mentioned, they need to play. Mm-hmm. And that is not age specific. The best teacher is the game itself. And so if you're not taking time at the end of every session to just let them play, and you hope that they take that train and apply it in that last play, right? You hope you see those moments, and those are the moments that you compliment. Those are the moments that you hit on as a coach. But you for me, at the end of every session, you know, I always hold it over my player's head, right? Like, you know, are we going to scrimmage? Are we going to scrimmage? I don't know. If you earn a scrimmage, we'll scrimmage. Mm-hmm. But there are very few times when we are not going to scrimmage at the end of training.
Yeah, and I love everything you've just said there. And I think this is critical for so many coaches. I think it's one of the things that you and I were really good at is sometimes you just got to, as a coach, be quiet and just step out of the way. If you give them time to get the rhythm going and allow them to solve their own problems, if you're stopping them every 30 seconds, they're not getting developed. They're just not. They're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated. It was not uncommon for me to run a 15 to 20 minute training activity and not say a word for 15 minutes. Other than great job or great vision, nice touch, or something praising their good work. But I think you and I have both seen coaches who just love to talk.
Let's huddle up.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into a big story, but I've watched too many coaches spend too much time explaining things in extreme detail, or they're stopping the drill every 30 to 45 seconds, and you're really not helping the team.
Yeah.
So I think you made a great point. Get it off, say what you got to say, and then step back and see what happens.
There we go. Yeah. All right, Coach, we are already at the 30-minute mark in our session, and I think we got through one, structure. So
we knew it was going to happen.
We knew this was going to happen. This is something that Dunham and I are both very passionate about, because I think we both would agree, and I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly, but I think we both would agree where the training is where the magic happens, right? On game days, you and I like to be as least involved as we can be, right? On match day, my job as coach should be done. Right? Now, do I need to make the adjustments at halftime and things like that? Of course I do, right? But my expertise, my training comes on our training days. And so I think again, we'll continue this discussion next week. I think this is really fun for us. We have another 3 segments to go. I said we get through the first 2 tonight. We got through 1. But anyways, we knew this was coming. We appreciate you all listening in. I think this will be a fun couple weeks for us, breaking down training sessions. Coach Hamilton, Coach Dunham, this is the Friday Footy Talk by the Ace Football Academy. Go kick some Ace.